people says, but yeah, Boros is sort of a different beast, really. It's just whenever I'm, killed in a round, then I'll just sit there and pretty much watch him, to be honest.
It's not every day that you watch a teenager from a relatively small region play and think, damn, this kid's a monster. However, in May of last year, I had that exact thought. In a game between Gamer Legion and the little-known Middle Eastern side NASR, a teenager was baring his fangs and tearing his opponent's heads off. Boros has now moved out of the shadows and into the spotlight with Endpoint, giving the world a better view of his sublime aim and uncapped potential. I am KingT, he is Boros, and this is Prospects. Even a pleb who just reads HLTV pages can figure out his greatest skill. It's his aim. I've watched a lot of young players with above average headshot percentages, but few are as mechanically sound as Boros, and none can translate these mechanics into such explosive impact in the way he does. Here's what MiGHTYMAX, his IGL on Endpoint, had to say about it.
It's hard to quantify, but it's like situations where you have no right winning. Like with his aim, he can go from being in like an unwinnable situation to very much winnable, which is like the exciting part about watching him play. Is while he is learning every day, and like obviously as we go he'll progress even further, but it's like flipping the round on its head where you have like almost no right winning the round into you either win the round or it becomes very close, just purely because of his aim.
There are so many rounds where Boros is playing the entry and he turns one kill into two within the blink of an eye, and I'm sure you understand the immense value of this. Opening kills are literally the most important thing to find when trying to win rounds, and a player who can find two before anyone can even react is map winning. To complement this, of course, he has a mastery of his weapon's spray and bursts. He's great at picking like the angles and the timings and positions of where and when to fight. You see this a lot on executes where he just happens to be in the right position every time to get the first kill, but also give himself the best possible chance to get the second. It's one of those hard to describe qualities that you just notice in the best fraggers. A slightly more hidden strength he possesses is actually a bit of AWPing. It only comes up on a few select maps, but when Boros is feeling it and he's decided to whip out the second AWP, his playmaking is unlocked to another level and you get some really hard to forget plays. I'm going to start with the side of Boros' game that first captivated me. His T-side play is a tale of never-ending aggression and desire to take fights. In fact, Boros' ultra-aggressive instincts were so strong that they had to be tamed when he first joined the Endpoint squad.
Two sides of the same coin. We knew he was an aggressive player, but obviously that has its limits, right? So when it came to, as the most like extreme example, like eco rounds, like obviously he's an aggressive player, he's going to go after the ecos, right? If he's in a man up situation, 5v4, he's going to go for the aggressive option. They said like it's all about taming the aggressive part of his playstyle, but trying to explain to him that there is more to the game than just being aggressive. So it's like we knew he was an aggressive player, but then we had to sort of also tame it whilst keeping the good parts of it.
Here's a great example of this aggression on the T side and around where it really came to bear. It's Overpass and Endpoint established short water control with our favourite entry fragger leading the way. BOROS gets boosted so he can take a look into the B-bomb site and immediately hits 2 headshots with quite astonishing speed and precision. Now for the part that separates BOROS from other players I've watched. Yes, those 2 shots were by themselves outstanding, but this is the next part. This is the part that really made me want to dig in further. Having jumped down from the boost, BOROS is immediately charging into the B-bomb site, taking first contact, being that focal point for the CTs, because all of a sudden he's in their face again. He goes through a Molotov just to take space into the bomb site, allowing MiGHTYMAX and Surreal to get incredibly free kills, just on players who are looking in the complete wrong direction, because this charging bull has just come sprinting into their bomb site. Let's examine some of BOROS' early round progressions on the T side. A common sight on Inferno is BOROS going up through second mid to take map control. He takes this space at quite a pace, staying on the run whilst throwing his HE into the apartments, and only briefly pausing to allow this flashbang to pop ahead of him so he doesn't get blinded. The next step is to either take mid directly or go into apps. Either way, the plan seems to be to take a fight in and around mid. If he peeks from second mid, he's trying to take a player potentially peeking just from the middle of mid, and if he's going through the apps, it's to take a fight around Boiler and Arc. If he gets a fight, he typically wins it, and likes to take a little extra space afterwards. It does help that his ridiculous aim can get him out of trouble in some of these cases, because he is quite ambitious with the amount of space he takes, and the risks he's willing to take on, but when you're this good, you might as well risk it. BOROS' CT sides are far less rampant and chaotic than his T sides. The numbers back this up, with BOROS' T-side rating being a full 0.1 higher than CT-sided. One of the biggest reasons for this is the roles that BOROS takes whilst defending. For example, on Nuke, he plays at ramp. Now let's go through a typical round. BOROS starts off the round by throwing a smoke off of the slanted wall to block off the doorway. This is followed up by an underarm flashbang, which he uses to safely slide in behind this smoke. He will sit there, sometimes spamming, sometimes not, until the smoke fades. The next step is where we get a little bit of variety thrown in. Sometimes he'll drop a Molotov and retreat, sometimes drops a nade and retreats, other times he just retreats. But most interestingly, he might drop a nade and then just push forward. A basic utility set and then just sitting and holding from a position is quite a common sight across all his CT sides, and it's a big contrast to the dynamism we saw on the T side. There are some moments where he will take that initiative though, like we mentioned before on that nuke push. There are these little spots where he gets to have that forward step in his CT play. He does occasionally push the monster tunnel, but not necessarily through a smoke fade in some sort of set play. Now the trend between these two pushes and sort of the decision making that goes into it is that it's typically very safe times. When there's a lot of presence elsewhere in the map and there's likely maybe one player holding it, that's when he'll go for that push. A lot of the time you'll see him take this space and basically get a lot of space afterwards unchallenged. It feels like a really safe play, just a baby steps level of aggression, just this is step one, when we can take this extra space. It's not massive playmaking in the same sense as a lot of other smoke pushes you'll see on the CT side. Now, even though he doesn't have as many opportunities to manufacture these opportunities for explosiveness, you still see moments of, well, nutty brilliance from BOROS on the defending side. He can lock down areas and pick up massive multi-kills when pushed into, and it's just unlikely that he's going to be dictating when and where these fights happen. It's more likely the T side will decide, this is when we're going to push him, let's see what he does with it. More often than not, he delivers. When you have mechanics like his, of course you do, but he's not able to be as assertive as he was on the attacking side of the game. Alright, let's think about the future. BOROS still has a lot to learn and a lot of things to add to his game before he truly fills his potential. I find that he makes some micro game mistakes due to his excitement to take fights, so he'll make steps, he'll rotate too quickly, or he'll overstep the mark on certain plays, go ahead of the timings, or just generally little sloppy things where he seems a bit antsy, a bit excitable. He wants to go fight, he wants to go challenge, take a heads up fight, when he would be better served to hold the shift key a little longer, wait a second, generally slow things down. There are moments where he doesn't do that when he should. That's one of the biggest, most commonly recurring things I've seen. Still, his aim and his ability to play make really give him a high ceiling, as well as a surprisingly high floor for such a young player. Let's look into some pro comparisons. I think that'll be a really interesting way to spice up these prospect videos. So in terms of where I expect him to peak, I think at worst he'll be a 2020 Jacob. He'll be a high volume fragger with decent impact, a step below the game's most impactful riflers, but still a great asset for any side. If he truly fills his potential and continues to play in the same style, he'll be a 2021 Yukinda. That's what I'm seeing. It's a player who can carry a team to 16 rounds. Sure, he won't have the highest KAST, his kill assist survive traded percentage will probably never hit 70%, but it doesn't matter, because when he does do something, he does so much that he just wins you rounds outright. For a prospect grade, I'll give BOROS an A. He doesn't reach the S tier, which would be the best possible prospect, because he doesn't quite have the polish to be a tier 1 star right now. He's a guy who still needs a bit of time to work on it, and he will eventually make it to that level, and he'll eventually dominate the highest echelons of the game. It's just he isn't quite ready yet, at least from what I've seen. He is in the right place, and if he does continue to develop as he should, we're looking at a future star. Maybe not this year, but definitely in the years to come. If you made it this far, please like and subscribe, it helps a ton. Check out my Patreon to support me further. Big shout out to my top patrons, Excel and Lager. Thank you for your continued support. Without you, I'd literally be homeless. And that's all for this one. Goodbye.